Hey, really glad you're here. Are you glad to be here? Awesome. Let me ask you, what is your favorite kind of food?
Chicken.
Okay. Who likes Italian? Italian? Okay. Chinese?
Let's go.
American?
Let's go.
Seafood?
Let's go.
Some of you are raising your hand on everything. Okay, Mexican food. That's me. All right, that's me. Mexican food. That's got to be, I don't know. I like so many different, I'm with some of you. I'm wanting to put it up on everything. I was at this taco place, which is good Mexican food, by the way, one time, and as you go through the line and they make it, and so I saw this guy, he had just gotten his thing, he went over and got his soda, and he was walking to his table, and somehow he clumsily, tripped, and the whole plate and the soda all hit the ground and just went kaboom, just everywhere, okay, in this huge mess. And so he bends over and he starts trying to put the food off the ground. It's all mixed, soda, taco mix. He's trying to put it all back on, and there's hair, and it's disgusting. It's a total mess. And so one of the people in the restaurant comes and says, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it, and we're going to make you a new one, okay? So one person from the restaurant's kind of sweeping, all the stuff and, the gross, and this is a huge mess, and someone else makes him another one. And they bring out the new one. Now, wouldn't it have been weird if here he is sitting and they bring out the brand new fresh one? They go, you know what, actually, I'll take the old one. I can pick the hairs out. It'll be okay. Exactly. That would be weird, right? To eat the old nasty one when you have a brand new fresh one. Okay. Now, I say that because isn't it weird that if you're a Christian, you might choose to live in the old life when you have a new life that's much better available? Now, if you're not a Christian, this might sound weird to you, but we actually believe that when you give your life to Jesus, that there is a new life that you can live, and that there is an old life that you set aside. And here's the problem, though. A lot of us live the picking the hair out of our food life when you have a brand new taco plate of life ready to eat. Okay, that's a metaphor, okay? But you have a new life that God has for you. And so what we've been talking about, this is the last week if you're tired of it, is how that we move from the old to the new. And it all started with this little passage we read, and I'm just going to show you this one part. He says, you were taught with regard to your former way, that's before you knew Jesus, to put off your old self. And he says there's this old self, this old thing, the old way that I did things, the old way I talked, the old way I responded to things, the old habits, whatever, my old life. And he says, and to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self. So it's like you're taking something off and putting something on. It's kind of like an analogy, if you kind of think of it as like taking off dirty clothes and putting on clean clothes. The other day we were here at the church and AJ was mowing. He mows the property. So if it ever doesn't look good, just be like, AJ, mow, okay? But anyway, so he mows the property and he had just finished and he was covered. Have you ever seen when it's really dusty? He's covered head to toe. He smells like grass. He looks like grass. Okay, he's just covered in stuff. And we're about to go in my car to go somewhere. I'm like, you're not getting in my car until you change. Okay, so what he has to do is take off the junk, okay, and get the gross off and put on something new. And this is kind of representative of our Christian life, that we have to take some junk off sometimes. And it's a process. It's not a one time. You understand? It's not like you just do it when you got saved. No, it's a constant thing where we're taking off old and putting on new. But there's the problem. Sometimes things are hard to get off. I mean, some things are like wet, skinny jeans, okay? They just will not come off, okay? And you're trying to get this bad habit off of you, and you just keep doing the bad habit. And so what I want us to do is talk about those things. We call those things a lot of the times strongholds, okay? A stronghold is something that has a strong hold on you, okay? You just can't seem to get rid of it. Actually, in Bible times, when the verses that we read talk about it, they would have thought of a stronghold as something like this. Okay, have you seen a movie with something like this in it? Okay, I love those kind of movies where they're swords and fighting and that. Okay, I like those. And so a stronghold was an area, maybe in the center of a city or a center of something, and it was thick concrete, usually really high walls, not concrete, but rocks, however they built it back then, high walls and all that kind of stuff. And what it was a difficult area for an army to take. So essentially it would work like this. If an invading army was coming, the leaders, the king, whatever, and his army could get inside of the stronghold, and it was very difficult to beat them, even if the army was much, much, much greater. And see, the army that came to invade could actually defeat the entire city. They could defeat the entire country and take that. But as soon as they would go to do something else, if they had not taken the stronghold, what would happen? That army and those leaders would come right back out and retake the land. So in order to actually win, they had to destroy the stronghold. This is some of your life. You got close to God and you felt so free and you felt like you had victory and all this kind of stuff. And then it's like somehow this thing came right back out at you. And this problem or this thing you've always tried to do or kept doing came right back out. It's because you had a stronghold. You had something that wasn't defeated and wasn't torn down. So we're talking about how to defeat strongholds. Here's the verse that we looked at. It said, the weapons we fight with are not weapons of the world. And this is important. You need to understand it's a fight. Sometimes taking off the old stuff is a fight. And if you're not fighting back, guess what you're getting? Whooped. You're getting beat up. You have to fight back. And fighting is not easy. Has anyone ever been in a fight? Like a real fight? Okay, a few of you? Yeah, okay, so Dylan back there, he knows what it's like to fight, okay? Now, like he's at like a school where they teach fighting, okay? Like that kind of thing. And he would tell you, anybody that's done that, I've watched some like jiu-jitsu matches and stuff. Those dudes, it is hard work, okay? And here's what you need to understand. You're going to need to sometimes fight and to go at these things. And the reason we're doing it is, he says, on the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. He's talking about these weapons we have the ability to demolish the things that have a stronghold on your life. Does this make sense? But you have to fight them. And I was trying to think of a way to illustrate this. Last week I got to use a sword, okay? Figured I can't use it twice in a row, but anyways. So I was like, how do you do it? So I thought about this old video I saw many years ago. Okay, so let's just say this is your stronghold, okay? And this is you. Some of you know this video. This is your stronghold and this is you. Do you understand? And so basically, here's the thing. If you have a stronghold and you let it stay, it will pick on you. It may punch you in the face, and there may be times when it comes at you and you feel like you did a good job. You know, you blocked its jab or whatever. But if you let it stay, it will just keep coming at you and keep coming at you and keep coming at you and just picking on you, and you just feel like you can't get rid of it. So what you got to do is you got to fight it, and you got to take it on. And you gotta just destroy that stronghold, okay? It needs to be so bad that your stronghold can't even walk straight anymore because of that. Okay, that's enough. Now, here's the thing. I actually watched the news article on that. Apparently, the little kid had been picking on that big kid for weeks, and he just put up with it, and it just kept going and going until finally he said, enough. Now, I'm not telling you to beat people up at school. This is a very clear thing I'm saying. Do not fight at school. But that is how you should treat your strongholds, okay? You need to just destroy them. No longer when you let them punch on you and mess with you. And so we're going to demolish our strongholds. And so I want to show you something before I tell you how that maybe you will relate to. Sometimes when I read the Bible, I go, I don't understand that, don't relate to that, that's weird. Anybody else? Okay. Then sometimes I read the Bible and I go, that's exactly me, okay? This is one of those verses that I go, yes, okay, I understand that exactly. I felt that way, and I think you will too, okay? This is written by the same guy that wrote this stuff about strongholds. He wrote this other thing, and that maybe he's kind of talking about the similar thing. He says, I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate, I do. Now, have you ever felt like you wanted to do something and you just never did it? Or you wanted to stop doing something and you just kept on doing it? I mean, it can be dumb things like, I want to stop snoozing 15 times and being late to school every day. And for some reason, every single morning you do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I want to stop eating this bad food, but it's so good, okay? And whatever that kind of thing is, there's those, and then there's maybe some more serious things. He goes on, he says, for I have the desire to do what is good, but I can't carry it out. Like I want to, but for some reason I don't. And I think every single person should be able to relate to that in some area of their life. It says, for what I do is not the good I want to do. No, the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. Now he's talking about something bigger than, snoozing your alarm, okay? He's talking about some evil in our lives, and I think all of us have that at times in our life. And he goes on, he says, for what I do, this is the last one, for what I do not want to do. It is, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is the sin living in me that does it. And now he's starting to talk about sin. And that we all, at times, have this thing in our life. We will have a sin in our life that it's just like, I don't know why I keep doing that. I've decided I don't want to do it, and then what do? A week later, I do it again, okay? And I think most of us can relate to that kind of a thing. And I know this is not going to be exciting. No one comes on a Wednesday night like, oh, yay, we're talking about overcoming sin. Okay, but it's so important because if you can get free of a stronghold, you're free. You know what I'm saying? And when you're bound to something, it is destructive and hurtful. And so I want us to get to do that. So the next few minutes, if you relate to this, if there is something you would say, I do what I do not want to do, then this will be helpful for you. If not, you might be kind of bored, okay? You might be bored anyways, we'll see. But for sure, if this is something that you struggle with, okay, where you say, I do what I don't want to do, I want to help you with that. I want to give you some tools to help you stop doing the things that you don't want to do. Does that sound okay? All right, so here we go. I want to talk to you about, we're going to keep going. He's talking about taking down strongholds. We're going to go back to that passage. And he says this, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. Now, you know what arguments are. You've argued, okay? And you've given your points on the matter, okay? That's what you do when you argue. You give your part, and they give their part, and you're like, this is why it's okay. And here's what we're saying, that we have arguments that are against what we know about God, okay? Because I'm a believer and I know what is right and what is true, but I have these arguments against that, okay? There's these things in my head that I come up with why it's okay to do this thing, or, this is an exception, and we have arguments, okay? And then he goes on, he says pretension. Now, I've never used that in conversation like, well, yes, that's the pretension. Okay, I don't even know, okay? But that means it's a claim that you make. Do you understand? It's like claims that set itself up against the knowledge of God. In other words, these are, like you have this thought about something, this claim in your mind that the Bible doesn't really say that anymore, or, we know more now. Like, we know that part of the Bible's outdated, okay? So we don't have to really listen to that anymore. And so we come up with these claims and reasons why we don't have to do what comes with the knowledge of God, okay? So these things are the first kind of thing we're going to figure out that help us, because we do this stuff all the time. So let me use a dumb example so we don't have to get serious yet, because we're going to do that in a minute. It's going to be real awkward, okay? But let me show you this. So have you ever known anybody that went on a diet? Some of you have, okay? So most of your parents have gone on a diet, probably. Now, if they're on a diet, they're not eating these, okay? Because these are not good for a diet. But have you noticed the stuff that people on diet do? They say, well, it's my cheat day, okay? And they have their cheat day, and that's their argument. That's their reason to eat what they shouldn't eat. And then the next day, they're like, well, it is my friend's birthday. I mean, I wouldn't want to be the only one they're not eating, but you're not at the party. Well, it's still their birthday. I got to celebrate. And then the next day, it's like, well, I have been so good, okay? Like, I haven't done this in so long. I deserve this one, okay? Or there's so many different ways that we do this kind of stuff, and we have all these different reasons, and we're like, I've really had a bad day. And you know what? One time isn't really going to cause that much problem, okay? No, I'm not really talking about cookies, do you understand? We're talking about you, okay, and your sin, okay, your struggle. This is the stuff that we do. And here's one of my favorite ones, okay? Imagine someone's on a diet and they go, well, if you take that much of a cookie, what is that, 2 calories? Is that going to affect my diet? No. So that's okay. So all I have to do then is break it into tiny little pieces, and none of these bites will actually affect my diet. So I can eat as many of these little bitty, you understand? Now, and you're thinking, and we do this, it's like, it's just a little, it's not that big a deal. I'm not doing that much. Everybody else is doing so much more. And we have all these reasons, these excuses that we come up with on why what we're doing is okay. And I'm not talking about a diet, okay? I'm talking about our sin in our life. And that we do this stuff. And it's crazy. How about this one? I've been good for a long time. Maybe you've even thought that. Like, okay, I haven't done it in a long time. It's okay this one time. Okay, it's okay. Now, what if I took that, I went to the bank, and I thought, you know what, I'm 36 years old. I have never robbed a bank. I deserve this one, okay? I tell you what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go to jail, because that is not a good reason. Okay, there's so many dumb things. So here's the deal. The first way that we demolish strongholds, I'm gonna give you a couple things, but it's this. You need to be convinced of the truth. You need to be convinced of what is true. And we come up with all of these arguments, and this is okay because, and da-da-da-da, but you need to begin to know what is really true. What is really true about your stronghold? And there's a couple questions that you could ask yourself to help you, okay? So I'm going to give you a couple questions that might help you with this. You could ask yourself this: what lie have I believed in regards to my stronghold? The thing that you deal with, is there some lie that you have believed? Well, everybody does this. Well, it doesn't really hurt anybody. Well, and on and on we could go. Okay, have you believed a lie? This is a good question to ask a close friend who cares about you, because it's sometimes really hard to see in yourself. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, is there something I believed really? Like you have to, because if you just ask yourself, you're like, nah, but you have to like really look at yourself. Okay, here's another thing. What excuses do I make? So whenever you do your thing, what excuse do you tell yourself as to why it was okay? You need to think about those things because those are the arguments that are holding you in the stronghold. Does that make sense? You have to ask yourself, what excuse do I give? It's okay because I'm tired. It's okay because I have a bad day. It's okay because other people do it. What are the excuses that you're giving yourself? And here's a great question. What has God said about this? Okay. Have you ever heard the phrase, the truth will set you free? Anybody ever heard that? Okay, it's kind of a common phrase. Do you know where it came from? Jesus, okay? Except they don't quote the first part. Jesus said this, if you hold to my teaching, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That's what he said. If you hold to my teaching, then you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And here's the truth. If you will find what he has said about what your struggle is, and hold on to that, that will help bring you freedom. Because as long as you believe lies about your sin, about your struggle, your stronghold, you will be bound to those things. As when you begin to know what is true, then you can get free. So here's the first thing I'd ask. Did Jesus himself talk about it? Like the red letters in your Bible, if you have one of those, did he say something about your stronghold? And here's the next one. Does anywhere in the New Testament talk about it? How about one of his other disciples? Did Paul or Peter, one of those guys, write about it? And then you can look at the rest of Scripture as well, the Old Testament, and asking those, what did they say? And that will help you become convinced of the truth. Here's the next one. And take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Take captive, this is a huge thing. Now, last week we started talking about this concept of neural pathways, okay? So if you weren't here, let me tell you what this is. When you have a thought, your brain, you see these little things going like, okay, your brain makes a pathway. When you do an action, your brain makes a path. Okay? Now, whenever you do it over and over and over again, the path gets easier and easier and easier for your brain to do. Okay? Some of you have been driving for a long time. Okay? Who's been driving for at least 2 years? Anybody? Okay, a couple of you. Okay, so now some of you are like never drove. Okay, now when you first start driving, you're very like paying attention, like looking at me, I'm doing all that. Like so. I remember I was really nervous when I first started. Okay. Now I will drive up somewhere, and sometimes I get somewhere, and I'm like, I don't even remember driving here. How did I get? No, see, the people that are older, they know exactly. Those of you who don't get it, you'll get it someday. You're going to show up at somewhere, and you're like, I don't even remember. I took exits. I drove here, and you got to where you wanted to go, and you never thought about it the entire time. Okay, have you ever been in the shower and thought, did I wash my hair? Okay, I do this all the time. Like, I cannot remember if I washed my hair. Do you want to know why? Because washing my hair has become such a pathway that I can do it without thinking. This is why, by the way, you can, have you ever been in the shower and you have the greatest thoughts? Like when you're in the shower, you come up with great ideas. You're like, that's a great idea. The reason is because you don't have to do this. Get shampoo, put shampoo in hand. Okay, you don't have to think about every step of the way because you have such big pathways in your brain. You can do all of that without even thinking. You can do it so much without thinking that you forget if you did it or not, okay? And so that is kind of the way the brain works is we get all of these habits and things we can do and we do without thinking. Now, here's where it starts to come into play with strongholds. Is some of us have gotten things that we do and it's a pathway, and it's very difficult to get out of it. See, whenever you're with your family and they're late again or they do that thing that annoys you, you instantly step into the pathway of, I am ticked off, I am yelling, and there's probably cursing happening, okay? And they do the thing and you're just like, blah, okay? And you're just going straight down that path without even thinking about it. Whenever you're really stressed out and you're going through whatever that situation is, and you have that thing that you turn to when you're stressed out. Maybe it's a substance, maybe it's a bad activity or something like that. And what it is when I feel this way, I immediately go down this path. And you can see these things in your life all the time, and there are pathways that happen in our brain. So what we have to do is we have to learn to take captive our thoughts. We cannot allow, just because we start somewhere, to go down the same path. I heard somebody say one time, well, you can't control your thoughts. They're a moron, okay? Here's the truth. You can't control necessarily every thought that pops in. Do you ever have really weird thoughts pop in your head? Okay, I think we all do. It's like, whoa, I didn't think that. Okay, never going to tell anybody that thought. Okay, we have those thoughts that come up. But here's the deal. I might not keep that from happening. I don't know where those weird things come from. Okay, I can keep myself from continuing to think about it. I can decide what I do with that thought. I can think, that is not an okay thing to think. I can think that on purpose, okay? And so I might not can stop what pops in, but what I can do is when that thought pops in, I take it captive. That's like put it in prison, okay? I'm going to take that thing captive. And then we don't stop there. He says, and make it obedient to Christ. So here's the things. You have to have captive thoughts. You need to start to recognize with your stronghold what the thoughts are that are not right. What are the things that I'm thinking? What is going through my mind? And what do I need to take captive and then made obedient? I take them captive and they're made obedient to Christ. So we need thoughts. We need captive thoughts that are made obedient. Does this understand? That are made obedient to what God has said. So I want to kind of give you an example of how this has worked in my life. It's one of those examples that I would rather not give because it's kind of uncomfortable, and it's going to be really uncomfortable for you. But just imagine me, okay? and so I'm going to talk about a struggle from when I was in like high school and college, okay? And the reason I talk about this struggle is because I know that many of you have dealt with the exact same thing, okay? And this is relatable to other struggles too. So when I was in college and high school, I really struggled with looking lustfully, okay? Pornography, that kind of stuff. And it was one of those things where I would pray and I would quit, right? And then I'd get back into it. And I'd pray and I'd quit and I'd get back into it. And it was just this constant struggle. And sometimes I felt like I was always going to struggle with that, okay? And it just felt like it was not going to go away. These two things began to change my life. The first thing was I had to become convinced of the truth. And that process changed over the years, okay? In the beginning, it was things like this. I would just tell myself, well, I'm just curious, or it's not that big of a deal. Lots of people do this. I'm not looking at the really bad stuff. And I'd have like all of this reasons why what I was doing was not that big a deal. And so I had to start getting convinced, first of all, that it was not right. That Jesus said, do not look lustfully at a woman, okay? That's Jesus' own words. So remember, what did God say? What did Jesus say? I needed to know that, and I needed to become convinced that that was a problem. But then it grew, and I had to learn more about it. See, the more truth I learned, the more free I began to get. So let me give you another example. I was in college, my freshman year, and so I'm praying and trying to quit looking at pornography on the internet. And at the same time, on the wall in my dorm room is a Sports Illustrated calendar. Not a football calendar, the swimsuit one, okay? That'd be different. So yeah, there was a swimsuit calendar on my wall. Now, I, in my mind, had convinced myself that that was okay because they weren't naked, okay? They were wearing clothes. Not very much clothes, but they were wearing clothes. And so in my brain, I was going, that's okay. But let me just say this, okay? You don't get a swimsuit calendar because you want to look at the latest swimsuit fashion. Oh, look at this new stuff they came out with. Okay, that's not it. You lit it to look lustfully at a girl. They don't have to not be wearing clothes to look lustfully, okay? I mean, they could be wearing a parka and still look lustfully if you want to. But the purpose of that is to lust. So here's the battle. Like, I'm trying to quit this, but I'm allowing other looking lustfully to stay in my life. And so here's another thing I had to become convinced of. And actually it was my roommate. He came up to me and goes, I think we need to take that down. And I was like, you're right. Like I was just telling myself a lie. You understand? So when I began to get convicted both convinced and convicted of the truth, I was able to begin to break out of that. Then the next thing is captive thoughts made obedient. And learning to take captive your thoughts is a huge, huge part of this. And I had to learn to take captive my thoughts and not allow myself to think certain things and go down certain paths. I had to recognize times when I was weak and learn how to take captive. So one of the things I began to do was I would begin to say actually out loud, I do not look lustfully at girls anytime I was tempted. So I've talked to a lot of you, and I've heard the same kind of stories. Something like this frequently will happen. You'll be on YouTube, okay, and you're just looking at like fail videos, okay, because those are awesome. And you're like, well, he wiped out. And you're walking, you're with it, okay, and then the little suggested videos, okay. I'm gonna get it from a guy's perspective. I don't know the girl's perspective much. I know girls struggle with the same stuff, but maybe it's a little different. But I know from a guy, like you're just going through, and then there's like a picture of a girl on one of the thumbnails, and she's wearing something. Her daddy would be super embarrassed. Like I've always been like, how awkward would that be? It's like, oh man. But anyways, her daddy would be super embarrassed. But here's what goes on in the guy's brain. Well, I want to look at that. And you don't even, you know the thumbnail's just the thumbnail, not really in the video, but you still click on it, right? And so here you start down this path, and you know how it goes. 10 minutes later, you're looking at stuff you shouldn't be looking at. But here's what I learned to do. When I would see that thumbnail, I would immediately say out loud, I don't look lustfully at women. And I would either scroll on, or I would shut down the app and do something else. And some of you need to do this. I don't recommend TikTok. I think it's a bad place to be. But if you're going to be on TikTok, you're going to have to be going through and going, and you know how they get on there and they're doing their little dance with whatever, and you're going to have to go, I don't look lustfully at women, okay? And whatever you do. And I began to say this to myself and to begin to believe it. I was taking captive my thoughts. And I'll tell you one more story about this. So I was walking through the mall one time, and they have that, like the place where you get the calendars. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, in the middle anyways. And so I'm walking by, and my thought was, let's go look at the calendars and not the puppy calendars, okay? I think it was going back to that addiction, like that problem from when I was in college. And I'm about to walk by, and I go, I'm not gonna look lustfully at girls. And so I just kept walking. Of course, then I turned the corner, and Victoria had her secrets all over, and I was like, I do not look lustfully at girls. And so I had, it's just a constant, and I've learned to do this. Now, here's the thing. So last night, I am preparing this message, and I get a Facebook request, a friend request, right? And I look over, and it has a little circle icon in the person's picture, and it is some girl, spam account, okay, wearing almost no clothes, okay? And I'm looking at that, and I go, that's dumb, okay? And I know what it is. I know what it is, okay? It's, if you click on it, it's gonna have some nasty stuff. I don't really know, but I'm assuming that's what it is. And I know that all those years ago, if I would have seen that image, I would have clicked on it, followed the link, and where I would have been. Now, how weird would it have been if I had not learned to do this, that if while writing a message on overcoming pornography and I looked at pornography, like that would have been like, oh, okay. But no, I didn't even think about it. I saw the thing, and I know I don't look lustfully at women. I clicked delete, didn't want anything to do with that picture. You understand? And this is where you can get. And I'm not telling you it's like instant, but it is a process that you work through. Okay? So, convinced of the truth, captive thoughts. I'm going to go really quick and give you a couple more ideas, okay, in like 1 minute. He says, therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other that you may be healed. This is huge. Confess to each other. Sin gets stronger when you keep it to yourself in the dark, because this is what you can do to yourself. You are really good at deceiving yourself. You are really good at coming up with reasons why it's okay to yourself. But if you share it with a believer who will pray with you, they won't let you do that. If they do, then they're not a strong enough person for you to share with. And you begin to tell them, say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And you try to have your excuse, and they're gonna be like, nah, man, that's not okay. Let's pray about that. So you need to confess it to each other. And here's the last one. Commit to the Lord. Whatever you do, and your plans will see. I like to say it like this. Commit to whatever, however, wherever, whenever, with whoever. Okay? If you'll do this, you'll get some victory. And this is the hard part, okay? This is the part that a lot of people want to skip. So I've had it a few times where somebody in the youth came and talked to me, and they said, hey, I'm really struggling with smoking pot, and I want to quit, and I keep doing it. And so I asked the same question. If you come ask me, I'm going to ask you the same question. This is what I'm going to ask you. Who and where? Who are you doing it with, and where is it happening? And then they'll tell me, oh, it's this friend, and it's their house. That's pretty normal. Okay, it's this friend, it's at their house. And this is what I say. Okay, do you want to be free? Yes. Are you willing to do whatever? Yes. You can never hang out with them alone again without another believer present who will keep you accountable. You can hang out with them with another believer, but not by yourself because you're not strong enough. And never go there again. You can never go to their house again. You can never go to that place again until you're completely, it's not even, if they offered you pot, you'd be like, get that out of my face, okay? If you get to that place, maybe you can go there again and you can try and get them saved. But until then, that's what doing whatever means. If pornography is your thing, here's what I would ask you. How? That'd be the first question, is how? Like, where are you getting access? How are you getting access? And then I would say, are you willing to do whatever? Okay, well, let's put a block on if you have an iPhone, you can turn off the internet on your phone for a time period. I'll put a password, your small group leader can get a password, whatever. But that's so inconvenient, I won't be able to look at whatever. Yeah, are you willing to do whatever? Okay, Jesus said, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. Do you think he was being literal? I hope not. We have a lot of blind guys in this. A lot of blind, like, be a weird youth group, okay? Anyways, he wasn't being literal about your eyeball. I think he was saying, hey, would I be willing to get rid of some stuff in my life if it would set me free from sin? I hope that's where you are. So here they are. Be convinced of the truth, take captive your thoughts, confess to each other, and commit to whatever. Now, This is not something you do in one little sitting here in this chair. And so what I hope, I'm going to leave this up here after service. Take your phone, take a picture of it, write them down or whatever you need to do, and take some time to think about these. We're going to do these in our small group this week. Okay, so you need to be at small group this week. And we're going to work on this. It's a process. It's a fight, okay? And most of your big strongholds don't tear down in one moment, but you can begin to knock bricks off of the wall tonight, okay? And so let's begin to do that, because what I want you to be is free. I would much rather just talk about a happy message about, yay, everything's great, okay? But that's not real. We really do struggle with stuff. And I would certainly rather not share about my struggle with pornography, okay? That's not my thing. But I know that many of you need to get free of things like that. Maybe you need to get free of a substance abuse. And you need to get convicted that that's wrong. Maybe you need to get convinced that yelling at your family is not okay. It is never right to yell at your family. Well, they do, well, they go. Okay, stop with your arguments and get convicted of the fact that it's not okay. And then we can start taking captive thoughts and we can start confessing and doing things. We got to start that process, okay, and getting free. So what I want to do is I want to pray, and then we're going to stand. And if you need prayer for something in your life, maybe a stronghold, maybe you're going through something at school, whatever that is, we want to pray for you. There'll be people at the sides of the room. We'll sing part of a song, and then we'll be dismissed. But during that time, if you need prayer, let somebody believe with you. Maybe you'll begin to knock some of those bricks off of that stronghold tonight. Father, I thank you that you can set us free, that we can get the old off and put on the new. I ask that we would be free of those things that are holding on to us. I pray for the person who's here tonight and they just feel shame or guilt because they keep going back to the same thing. That you would remind them you love them, that they would feel your love and your forgiveness, and that they would have hope that victory is in front of them and freedom is coming. And I thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.